Okay. Hi everyone, and welcome to the next follow-up Apprentice Automation webinar. Just firstly, before we get involved, just a few house rules. If everybody could switch off microphone and videos to improve the connection, as I think is also in the chat. My name is Jason Yearsley, and I am the chair of the steering group for the ACT competition, and I also sit on the Manufacturing Industries Division Board at the IMechE and the Young Members Board at the IMechE. And my day job, I'm a design engineer at Rolls-Royce. So that's enough about me. Today we've got quite an interesting schedule for you. And what we're going to be looking at today is the Manufacturer, TMMX Awards and Smart Factory Expo. Grace Gilling is going to introduce herself and talk you through that. Then we move on to a short section on the Apprentice and Eng Tech Awards that might be of interest to you, moving forwards from Scott Patterson. And then we've got some good tips for the report writing and finals day from Toby, and then an in-depth section from Raymond Hodgkinson on the business case report writing. So just to mention, that's Toby Higgerty. I missed that there, apologies, Toby. And then we'll finish up with some question and answers session at the end. And if you have any questions throughout, just put them in the chat box, and then we can go through those at the end. So don't feel shy to add those in when they crop up. A little bit other information now. We're hoping this year, if everything COVID restriction wise, to move ahead with the finals day competition, which will be at the MTC in Coventry. So hopefully we'll get to meet you all and see your products then. And I hope you're enjoying the challenge so far. And I'll now pass you over to Grace to go through the Smart Factory Expo and TMMX Awards.
Great. Hi everyone, I'm Grace Gilling. Apologies if you can hear background noise. I do live next to a school and I think it's break time at 10:30. Could you just push next on the slide, please, Sean? Thank you. So I'm Grace Gilling. I'm an AAC committee member of the Manufacturing Industries Division of IMechE, and my day job is Managing Director of the Manufacturer magazine. So the Manufacturer, really proud to support the Apprentice Automation Challenge, and also proud to be a long-time partner of IMechE's. One of the activities we're partnered on is the Manufacturer IMAC Awards, which is the largest and most rigorous industry awards programme with a combined heritage of 50 years. The awards are all about promoting manufacturing excellence across a range of categories, and it's almost a year-long programme involving an intensive judging process, culminating in a ceremony that takes place as part of Digital Manufacturing Week. Digital Manufacturing Week is a series of events that we organise, the Manufacturer, in Liverpool from the 8th to the 12th of November. And the ceremony has approximately 700 attendees. All being well with the COVID requirements, we're hoping to run all of these events this year again, face-to-face, live. And we invite the winners of the Apprentice Automation Challenge to attend the ceremony for an evening of celebration. It's a really fun evening celebrating the winners of the Manufacturer IMAC Awards, but we also recognise publicly as part of the ceremony the winners of the Apprentice Automation Challenge as well. Also at Digital Manufacturing Week is Smart Factory Expo. Could you advance the slide, please? Perfect, thank you. So this is a two-day event. It's industry's biggest digital manufacturing show, and we also invite the winners of the challenge to exhibit their product as part of the show. Again, if you could advance the slide for me. Perfect. So this is Innovation Alley. It's at the heart of Smart Factory Expo. In previous years, as I said, the winners exhibit their product there. Both of these events are excellent opportunities for networking, excellent opportunities for learning. And of course, actually attending the awards ceremony at the end is a great opportunity for you to celebrate your win, everything that you've achieved over food, drinks, and with live music. So we are, as I said earlier, really proud to support the challenge. We aim to be an essential resource for you over your career and the manufacturing industry in general. If you'd like a complimentary print subscription to the Manufacturer magazine, please reach out to me on either the community platform or on LinkedIn. And of course, we'll be covering the competition and the winners in the print magazine and online. And I look forward to hopefully meeting you in person in November. Good luck with the competition. And I'd like now to hand over to Scott Patterson.
Excellent. Thank you, Grace. So hello, good morning. My name is Scott Patterson. I'm an AAC committee member, and I'm also a committee member of the EngTech and Apprentice Awards that the IMechE have. So part of my day job, I'm a junior aero R&D design engineer for Aston Martin Cognizant Formula One team. I don't actually have any slides to show, but what I am going to do is share my screen and kind of talk you through the IMechE website and how you would navigate to our Apprentice and EngTech Awards. So obviously, hopefully you're all familiar with the IMechE homepage. If you hover over the Careers and Education button, you can go to the Scholarships and Awards page here. So when that loads through, you can see all the awards that the Institution of Mechanical Engineers offer. And obviously more applicable to yourselves may be this Apprentice and EngTech Awards. So on this page, there's obviously a variety of awards that we have available, and I can almost guarantee that you will be eligible for at least one of those. The application process is really easy to do. Most of them don't require an interview. They're only just an application that you'd fill in online. Some of them you can see that kind of associated with project work, which you might be doing at college. So some of the requirements that you might need to fulfill, you may be doing as part of your college work. So please have a look and see if you're eligible for that. There's no limit on how many awards that you can apply for, so feel free to apply for as many as you want. And the closing date for these this year is the 30th of June. So if they are open now for applications, so please head to the page and have a look to see if there's any that you'd like to apply for. There is obviously a healthy financial reward for the winner of the majority of the prizes. So that's obviously a big major benefit for applying, but there's also the networking opportunities that come with these, being able to network with like-minded people and engineers as well. So just to kind of just to recap, closing date is the 30th of June. So please head to the website and get your applications in before that deadline. So that's everything from me. So I'm now going to hand over to Toby, who's our head judge of the Automation Challenge. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen, and Sean, I think if you can reshare the content to carry on.
Good morning. My name is Toby, as been introduced. I am the AAC head judge. So we're going to talk a little bit about the different areas of the reports that we will be judging you on, that you're going to be submitting. Could you just advance the agenda, please, Sean? So we're going to talk through the marks, so a rough touch on the mark scheme, the four different areas, and then we're going to not so much dig deep, but we're going to offer you some questions to consider when you're writing up your report for areas that the judges are going to be looking at to mark you on. I think there's a couple more points there, Sean, please. And then after that, we're going to just offer you a few tips for writing, for your report writing. Some may be obvious, but they're still useful I think they're still useful to pass along. So next slide, please. So the mark scheme itself, we'll be marking you upon the following criteria. If you could just design specification, manufacturing process, business case, and finally structure and presentation of the written report. Next slide, please. So to dig down a bit more deeply for each of them, the design specification. Have you shown good design documentation? So, and have you considered the different requirements of your prototype? So we'd like to see, I guess, a few drawings if possible. Have you displayed good evidence of your design skills? So why have you selected the certain whatever hardware or software that you have down selected for your prototype? What other considerations did you make before you settled on those chosen options? Next slide, please. Manufacturing process. Have you addressed all the requirements of manufacture? Have you considered the difference in the processes for the creation of the prototype versus mass manufacture? Looking in this project, of course, to output a prototype, but we'd also like to consider if you considered how you would then take this further. Have you included information in the different stages of the manufacture? So what sort of processes would you be using to make each part of it in each of the different, as I said, prototype and for mass manufacture? Next point, please, I think. Have you shown strong supporting evidence for your decisions? Obviously, it'd be great if things work first time, but I'm very much aware, and we're all aware they don't. So we would like to see some information about your failures as well as your successes. Sorry. Next point, please. The business case. I'm not going to discuss heavily on this because Raymond has a section on this in the next part of the webinar. But some things to consider. Have you shown good use of business analysis techniques? A couple of examples, SWOT and PESTLE. SWOT, if you're not unaware, is strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. PESTLE, political, is political, so economic, sociological, technological, legal, and environmental. So some of these may be relevant towards your prototype going forward. Next point, please. What market research have you done? Is your product a niche in a niche market on its own, or are there competitors? How will this affect what you're going to? How will this affect your business case? As I said, in the next point, Raymond will hopefully be covering a number of these topics in his section next in the webinar. Next slide, please, Sean. Lastly, is the report presentation and structure. So, is the report clear and concise? Next point, please. Is it well structured and do the sections flow in a logical manner? The judges don't want to be constantly flicking back and forth through the report to see if they can follow and understand your train of thought. Next point, please. An obvious one, but have you ensured your report is free from grammatical and spelling errors? Next point, please. Have you made use of citations? And if so, are they presented correctly? There should be, I think, if we can always offer advice on that if necessary, but I think there's a lot of very good resources online for how to use citations and how to do them correctly. Next slide, please. So this is sort of probably the more meat of what I'm hoping to talk about, which is the tips for writing. Most important point, proofread your report before submission. You will all be very close to the report. You'll be spending a lot of time hopefully writing it. As such, things will slip by. So always get someone who's not involved in your report to try and proofread it if possible. Next point, please. Use of figures and tables. They say a picture says 1,000 words, which is true, but you should only include images in your main body of your report if they're directly referenced by the text. If you have images that you still want the judges to look at, but they're not directly referenced, place them in the appendix. Next point, please. The report style. Your report is, again, hopefully going to be written by everyone in the team, but you'll all have your own writing style. So ensure that the report is part of your proofreading. Ensure your report follows a singular passive voice throughout. I think there's one more point. Last point. Well, back a slide, sorry. Keep the report focused on the prototype being developed. It is interesting to hear about other considerations you have made in your prototyping before you chose your final project, but we would like to keep the report focused on what you're actually working on, please. We will now hand you over to Raymond, who's going to give you a presentation on writing the business case itself. Thank you for listening.
Hello. I'm Raymond Hodgkinson. I'm International Vice President of the IMechE, but more relevant for today, I've been judging reports for this challenge, also under its previous name of Home Automation Challenge, since about 2017, and judging business presentations for the Formula Student Competition at both Silverstone and Hockenheim for something like 10 years. You have 2,000 words to describe your business plan, so use them well. This presentation will try to cover the main elements of a business plan and suggest things you might want to consider in it. I would echo Toby's comment about proofreading. Use spell check, but don't trust it totally. Spell check does tend to use American spelling, and while you are allowed to use American English, you then have to use it throughout, or English throughout. You can't mix, least of all in one sentence. And also, spell check can't distinguish between a word like THERE, as in there is a case for this, and THEIR, as in their opinions are important. So read carefully. Now let's go on to the business case itself. There's 5 key elements to a business case. Don't keep clicking, please, Sean. I'll go one at a time. There are 5 key elements to a business plan. These are the product itself. Next, the market, your marketing strategy, the costs, and the finances. And we will discuss each of these in turn. Next slide, please. Logically, your product is going to be the focus of the business plan. First comment. This particular illustration is just an apprentice piece I made many decades ago when I was an apprentice myself, and they are actually a mold and a core box for sand casting. Next, what is special about your product? Logically, you've put a lot of thought into your product and how to make it and why to make it. So what is the special point of it? What is its application? In other words, what does it do? Next, what benefits does it offer? Does it have benefits that no other product can give? These are known technically as unique selling points, or USPs. Are these benefits immediately obvious, or do you need to explain and stress them to people? Next. Why would people want it? Will it make their life easier or safer? Will it save them money or space? Next. What products could compete? When you're thinking of competitive products, don't just think about alternative versions of your product. Think a bit wider. Think of other products which could meet the same need. For example, if you've invented a super adhesive, competitive products could include sticky tape, nails, screws, staple gun, or even 3D modeling so you produce the final product in one piece and don't need to join it at all. These are examples of slightly different ways of thinking about the competition. Next, the market. When thinking of the market, consider these points. Next. Who would want to buy it? This is called your target market, and your whole market plan and business plan should be centered on their target market. Next. How much are they prepared to pay for it? Try to set your selling price based on what people will be prepared to pay, not based on your costs. This will give you a much more realistic prediction of the results. Next, how many are they likely to buy? And remember, the higher the price, the higher your profit per item, but the less of the product you're going to sell. So this is a trade-off. Next, how will you get it to them? This is technically called the path to market or route to market. And think here about shipping costs, packaging costs, insurance for items lost or damaged in transit. You may also want to think about the carbon footprint when deciding where to make the product to keep transport distances as low as possible. This, by the way, will also save you money on freight costs. Next. What about regulations? Does it need a CE mark if you're going to sell it in Europe? Does it need to meet certain health and safety regulations or fire protection regulations? Next. Does your product have a limited life cycle? This is critical to the business case. It's no good saying you're going to come into profit in year 4 when the product's only got a 3-year life. And if it does have a limited life cycle, can you extend the life cycle by bringing out an updated model? iPhones are a classic example of very effective use of that policy. Next, your marketing strategy. And this should include, coming back to the path to market, are you going to sell the product directly, or are you going to sell it through shops or a chain of retailers? If you do sell through a retail chain, you'll have less costs for advertising and selling, but you will need to allow for resale margin required by the shops, and these can be quite considerable. Next, advertising. No matter how brilliant and wonderful your product is, nobody's going to buy it if they've never heard of it. So you're going to have to advertise it, and think about how. And again, think a little bit outside the box. Obviously, print advertising is a possibility, an advert in the manufacturer, for example. Social media is a possibility. But what about getting your local TV or radio station to mention it under local apprentices come up with brilliant new idea? That is probably going to be far more effective and convincing than all the others. Next. Packaging. How will you package it? And when planning the packaging, think about protection against damage in transit or in storage, but also think about appealing to the eye. People buy mainly with their heart more than with their head. Next. As mentioned above, if you are selling through third parties, you need to factor in a resale discount, and it needs to be attractive enough to get them to sell it for you and want to sell it for you. Next. What about after-sales service and guarantee costs? Now, these can be a source of cost, of course, but they can also be a source of income. Think about spare parts and accessory sales, repair costs after the end of the manufacturing, the end of the guarantee period, etc. Next, the costs. The heart of any business plan is going to be the costs. Next. Don't base your business case on the prototype costs unless you really think they're going to be the same as the mass production costs. Next. Base it on the series production costs. Next. Now, unit costs are going to include things like material costs. Next. Labor costs, manufacturing plant costs, packaging, freight, etc. But in addition, you're going to need to take into account the fixed costs such as staff wages, electricity bills, factory rental or depreciation of assets. For example, if you're using a PC and you don't depreciate the cost of the PC by allowing a little bit of it in each cost of product, at the end of 3 or 4 years, your PC is going to be out of date, but you have no money to replace it. Marketing costs. Next. Marketing costs. And next. Now, delivery costs. These can normally be added into your production costs as a standard using an average figure. And next. The same applies to warranty costs. And to give you some idea, accounting convention says that on big capital goods, you estimate 2% of the selling price per year of warranty. Next. Finances. The accumulation of your business cost is going to be combining all the above figures. Your business plan is going to be combining all the above figures into a profit and loss estimate. So let's look at how to do this. Next. It's good to do a best case, worst case comparison. This not only gives you a more realistic prediction of the outcome, if you're using your business case to present, say, to a bank manager to get financing to start up your business, It's going to be far more convincing to him or her if you've got a best case and worst case, rather than you've got a set of figures and this is really exactly what it's going to be. No one has that good a quality crystal ball. Next. Look at your net cost per unit times the number of units sold in the period, for example, per month if you're doing a monthly estimate. Next. Add to this the fixed costs for the same period, and these will include next. And these are the fixed costs we've discussed before. You then need to calculate your income, which will be the total number sold times the selling price, and subtract from these the net cost and the fixed cost to give your net profit or loss. Don't be discouraged if you show a loss in the initial period. That is quite normal. It takes time to come into profit with a new product. And in fact, a business case that shows an initial loss coming into profit, here you see it in about 6 or 7 months, but it may well be 2 or 3 years, is going to be more convincing to a would-be financer than some wonderful plan that shows you making millions in the first week, which no one's going to believe. Next. This graph you see on the right-hand side and the figures you see in the next table are based on a fictitious case, but you will need to be realistic. Next. This is an example of an Excel table used to produce the graph in the previous slide. And basically, you've just got your period. I've chosen months. You could have chosen quarters or, depending on the product, even years. You've got your sales, worst case and best case for each of that time in that period. The unit cost and the sales price. Since I'm only looking at 1 year, I've taken these to be consistent. If you're looking at 2 or 3 years or 5 years business period, you have to allow for those costs increasing and maybe even the price increasing. You've got your fixed costs, which also could increase over a longer period. And putting those together, simply taking unit cost times sales number plus the fixed cost, you get your total cost. Taking the unit sales times the selling price, you get your total income. Take the first from the second to get your profit and loss, and add them up month for month to get your cumulative. And you'll see here that in the worst case, you come back into the profit on about month 10. On the best case, it's about month 6. But as I said before, this could very well, for your product, be 2 or 3 years. But if you're doing that, think about how you're going to finance it over that period and factor in finance costs such as interest, which at the moment is thankfully very low. Thank you. I'll now take any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Raymond. That was a great presentation. And thank you to all the speakers for your wonderful presentations. I will now double check if we have anything in the chat box, any questions from the teams. I cannot seem to receive any questions for the moment. Shall we give it a few minutes to our teams? Does anyone have any questions? Please, could you put them into the chat box? If you could see at the top, you have a little speech bubble. Okay, hi Solomon. Yes, we will be sending the slide pack, and also this session has been recorded, so it will be shared with the teams hopefully in the next week. Any other questions? I guess this is a sign that your presentations were perfect. I'm very clear. No one has any questions and they are ready to do the best reports.
I look forward to reading them.
Okay, I think a few people are writing in the chat box. Just giving a few minutes. And if no one has any questions, we'll probably close soon.
Yeah. Am I allowed to speak on mic? Or do you want me to use the chat box?
Please do, Solomon. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just wondering, because you did mention about the appendix. Are we allowed to then, I'm assuming, supply supplementary documents along with our main report? So say we've done a big risk assessment or something like that. Could we then just reference that in the report and then submit the risk assessment as a separate document?
Toby, you're on mute.
My apologies. If it is relevant to the content of the report, then yes. If you know, if it's relevant, yeah. If you feel it's relevant, then we'll look at it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks.
And I think a note from me is that the report template has been uploaded to the webpage under the resources. If you were looking for the template for 2021, you can find it on our webpage, but we will also circulate it to all teams with this slide pack on the webinar recording shortly. So anyone else maybe wants to unmute themselves and ask a question to our lovely speakers today, like Solomon did? And thank you, Chris, for sharing the link to the template. Brilliant. Well, I don't see anyone having any questions, but if you do remember something, please email us at aac.challenge@imeche.org and we'll pick it up. Once again, thank you to all our speakers for their time today. They worked hard on their presentations, they prepared. So thank you so much for being with us today. And thanks to all the teams who joined and made their time. All the best of luck with your report writing and keep in touch. Thank you.